So good to see you, Kath. I know you've been away on the weekend just gone.
Oh, lovely to see you too, Elle. And you know what? The weekend feels like about 3 weeks ago already.
Oh, really? Don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
I think just time is just, it goes by so fast these days. But
Crazy.
yes, it was a lovely, lovely time away.
Oh, that's good. And because I was away as well, I got to go away
Yes.
on a work trip for the weekend as well. And it's interesting that we're both away. I went down south and you came up, closer to north.
Yeah, we crossed paths in the air probably.
Yeah, I'd say
But
so.
at least you went for a few longer days than I went. But
Mm,
what was interesting about this trip, Al, and I think it's, makes for a good conversation today, is
sure.
I nearly didn't go
Okay.
because we're down south in Adelaide and we went for a weekend to Hamilton Island,
Yeah.
which absolutely, what a privilege. Um,
Yeah.
Amazing.
Beautiful
And I
place.
almost didn't go. Hubby had a conference on, and so he was going to be at the conference. And at the time, a couple of weeks ago, when he said, "Hey, I've got this thing, would you like to come with?" My first knee-jerk reaction or response was, "Oh, no, I won't come. You're going to be at a conference, and gee, it's a long way to go just for,
Mm,
And I said, like, how long is it going to be? And literally, we were there for 48 hours, and
yeah.
it's a long, a long
Yeah.
way to go for 48 hours.
Yeah.
So my initial response was, no, thanks, I won't go.
Mm,
And then about 2 weeks later, I was looking at my calendar, my work calendar, and realized that there was a window because my boss was going to be away. And so, yeah, I had, there was an opportunity to actually take the Friday and to
mm,
go. And I don't know, I just had this unction to sort of say, oh, you
mm,
know what? And I think it had come on the back end of I'd been away with family back in South Africa for
mm-hmm.
a couple of weeks, and I just thought it's been a while since hubby and I did something
Yeah.
sort of spontaneous and fun like that.
Yeah.
Besides which, you know, got to put all the cards on the table. It's freezing in winter, and winters get long down south. And so the thought
Yeah.
of, 2 days in the sun and
In
in warm weather,
Queensland. Yeah.
like, what am I thinking not going?
Yeah.
And so I changed my mind and I said yes. And hubby graciously, rolled his eyes and then graciously said, okay, no, he'll
He'll sort
he'll
it.
book me. No, because it was just flights, really. I
Yeah.
mean, I was, accommodation was I was just joining him and what he
Yeah.
was up to. But the experience has really had me come back and think, gosh, I almost said no. And what
Mm.
those 48 hours gave me, like the gift in the experience of being away, because as it turned out, the week before I wasn't that well, still sounding a bit
Still,
full of
yeah.
cold. And just realizing it's so easy to get caught up in the drudgery or the just, everyday
Mm.
living. And
Mm-hmm.
when life has been busy or is busy and it feels like there's just so much to get done, sometimes um, something out of the ordinary can feel like it either feels like a distraction or it feels like, oh, this is just too hard. Like, no, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds wonderful on paper, but just too hard.
Yeah.
And how easy it is to say no and to think that I could potentially have missed out on
Mm.
everything that this weekend gave me as far as just, recovery and replenishing and filling my bucket. And it was just food for the soul. I've come back
Yeah.
feeling literally like a different person. I mean, that's probably an exaggeration, but you know what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say.
An exaggeration. I love that because um it's just bringing up so many memories for me of times where my husband said to me, Al, let's go camping. The end of a
Yes.
school term. I don't know for anyone who's listening who's a teacher, you know how you work, basically you're working your butt off for 10 weeks and you're hanging in for that first day. And then when the
Yeah.
hubby says, no, we're going to go camping for 2 days for that weekend because he's got that weekend off, the overwhelming thought of that
Yeah.
means I've got to pack, I've got to organize the
Yeah.
food, I've got to organize the kids, make sure everything's, yada, yada. And my instinct is to go, no, I'm too tired. That's too
Yeah.
hard. I can't be bothered. I just need to be at home. And yet, the times that we have done that, even if we've been away just for the weekend,
Yeah.
what that gave to our family, what that gave to me. It still gave me lots of washing on the flip side. That didn't change.
Especially with camping, yes, yeah.
Yeah, but I absolutely hear how many times are we quick to say no, that's too hard, I can't be bothered, I'm too tired.
Yeah.
And what have we missed out on?
Yeah. And this time away, it was, even though it was only literally 48 hours, it was
Yeah.
almost like time slowed down. Things
Yeah.
just, yeah, time slowed down. I just feel like the gift of the all that it sort of gave me, it felt like I'd been away a week. It felt
Yeah.
like I've come back and I just feel energized. I feel much more rested. I feel recharged. And you're kind of going, what? Like, how can 48 hours give me
Do
everything
that.
it gave me? And yet it did. And I think also it's not only sort of the food for the soul and the life-giving sort of for me individually, but the connection with,
Yeah.
hubby and other people we hadn't seen. And so often it's so easy to forget, I suppose what's important at times and
Mm.
even our needs, because we get so um focused on what we have to do, must do, should do, need to do. Sorry, there's my phone ringing. Um,
That's fine. All sorted.
yeah, so yeah, all sorted. So yes, I think if you're listening to this, what have you recently said no to?
Mm.
And there is a time, for sure there's a time to say no to things.
Mm.
But how often, if you pause and think about it, how often and it, I've done it myself, got into this rut of in a season saying no to quite a few things. Maybe it's even coffee with a friend. It doesn't have to be a whole weekend away,
Mm.
or a meal with somebody, and you just go, "Oh, I'm just too tired. It's just like,
Yeah.
nah, I don't think we'll go. Let's just not
Yeah.
go." And yeah, what all are we missing out on? And it's
Mm.
not it's not like from a FOMO sense. It's from a richness in life sense.
Yeah.
And who else might be missing out on the richness in the connection that we can potentially have with someone else because we've said no.
Yeah, agreed. And I would also say it's about, you know how when you're just caught up in life and you just go, 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 or you're just doing all the things that need to get done. Sometimes we just feel like there's this sense of dreariness, boredom, we're not enjoying
Yeah.
life. And so sometimes if we find ourselves having that experience, looking and then going, okay, well, if I'm feeling this, what can I do to add and to spice it up and to change it a little bit? Because you're so right. It's not just about ourselves. It's also about our families. It's about other people in our world and creating this sense of, and I like the word adventure. I feel like when we
Yeah.
do these things, it feels adventurous. It's exciting. And even though it adds to our workload, um, you're right in what it gives us
Yeah.
and you come away. I'm fairly certain. So after my weekend away, it was busy and mine was kind of different. My weekend was with a lot of people that I didn't know. I did get
Yes.
to connect with my son and his wife and spend a little bit of time there, but for the most part, it was with people I didn't know. So it was kind of, I was um, in that space of
And you were
lots of,
also in, yeah, training and
I was
listening to
training and
talks,
learning.
and yeah, that was different. It wasn't, yeah, it's different. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, it's still an adventure.
That's
It's
exactly right. And
still,
that's what I was going to say. It was still this time away from the normal. So, had I
yes,
been, and I was feeling, I think in our last couple of conversations, we've sort of shared some of the things that, have been happening in my world. And it just took a moment away from that
yeah,
and gave me eyes to see something different so that when I've come home, I've got fresh eyes again. I feel like there's a new perspective. I feel like there's a what's that saying? Absence makes the heart grow fonder. You're away from the
yeah,
chaos of your
yeah.
kids and your family, and you come back and you're just ready. You're refreshed to go back and do it all again.
But
Um,
you're so spot on because you're absolutely right. It is. It's coming back with, you feel refreshed, but it is, you come back with fresh eyes and fresh perspective.
mm,
And even the conversations I've had this week with other people have potentially been different.
yeah,
Not because, I've been intentional about them being different, but purely because I'm refreshed and I've come away
Yeah.
with a different perspective. And sometimes
Mm.
it does take stepping out of things to,
Yes.
you know, and having a bit of distance to look back and go, oh, okay,
Mm.
so, you know, because we don't realize it when we're in the thick of
We have
things
no
often.
idea. And we don't think it's possible in the thick of things
Yeah,
either. And I even remember having a conversation with someone in our family, and they were sort of talking about how they're just kind of feeling stuck and, a bit bored with life and da da da. And we're like, oh, well, what are you doing in that space? How are you how are you thinking outside the box and creating some adventure and excitement, and what are you
yeah,
doing? And it's been interesting to now start talking to them to hear some of the plans and things they're putting in place, because it gets you out of, I mean, we have to be present and have to do life, but there's something about changing it up and looking forward to doing something a bit different.
yeah, yeah. I completely agree. And I think it also just doesn't, I mean, in my scenario, you know, it came as an offering that I wasn't even looking
You
for.
no.
But quite often it takes an intentional going out and finding it yourself and even
Mm.
asking yourself, if I were to be adventurous or go and do something a bit different, what would
Mm.
that even look like? And what would I like it to, you know, to even look like?
Mm. Mm.
Um, and then starting there.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I guess what would be really a good sort of reflective question, and you sort of touched on it before, Kath, it's to think back and go, okay, well, what have I been saying no to? What
Yeah.
have I brushed aside because I thought I didn't have the time, the effort, the botheredness, um, and be curious. Okay, I wonder what could have been different, and perhaps look to then, if we can recognize times that we've said no to things, go, okay, would I like to change that? And what difference would that make for my life?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And what little thing can you say yes to that is in reach? Yes, it might take a bit of effort and energy, but it's, you know, and then reflecting on what it did give you. You know, what's the feedback if
Yeah.
you step out and try? Because it, and, you know, on the flip side, it could be so easy for, you know, in my example, to come back from this weekend and then just dive straight into, you know, as I
Mm.
said at the start, it feels like that weekend was a few weeks ago, but
Yeah.
it can be so easy to get caught up in everyday living again and then forget.
Yeah.
So, but it's been lovely for me to just reflect back and you know, look at some of the photos we took on the weekend and yeah, just I'm still really sort of floating, I suppose, on the the buoyancy of what that adventure has done for me, which surprised me. You know, I wasn't
Mm.
expecting it to have m- sort of created such a shift on the inside of me, which it has. So I'm inspired to kind of like, what's the next adventure, you know?
Okay.
Luckily, we've got one coming up in the pipeline. We've got family from South Africa coming, and you know, when
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, whenever you've got visitors coming from somewhere else, it's interesting. You
Mm.
kind of want for them to enjoy their time, so you sort of
Hmm.
start planning things
Yeah, what
because,
you
you
can
know,
do. Hmm.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah,
And knowing that in between now and then, there's going to be a whole lot of real life. And it's going to
absolutely,
be
yeah.
easy to not put a whole lot of effort into, the plans, but knowing that it's all worth it.
Yeah, because real life actually becomes easier when we've got these adventures along the way to, you
Mm.
know, add, what do they say, the sort of spice of life and the joy and the
Yeah.
sparkles.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Well, I'm glad you had a fabulous time in Hamilton Island. And I mean, goodness me, feet in the sand, seeing the trees,
Oh,
nature. It was a different environment on the island to, South Australia, to Adelaide, the hills. Equally beautiful, but just very different. So,
yeah.
how amazing. And I'm glad that you were surprised that you've had a fabulous weekend. It was worth it. And
Oh, it
yeah,
was you just, yeah, way more worth than my expectations. I don't even know that I had any expectations. It was
no,
just
you're
like,
probably too,
yeah, I'll go.
yeah,
Yeah, you know.
meh.
But yeah, yeah, anyway. So, you know, it's been a pleasure reflecting and sharing this with you. And I'm inspired to start saying yes more to things and
Hmm.
realizing that, you know, we only get this one life.
Yeah,
The years go by so quickly. My goodness, I mean, I can't even believe this year is where it is already. And
yeah.
So saying yes to things, what if you knew that it actually helps to slow things down a bit and just,
Yes.
bring more richness into life? And um, yeah, it's the ingredient that kind of keeps us out of the mundane, which is
That's
such a
beautiful.
gift.
It is
Yeah.
the ingredient that takes us out of the mundane. That
Yes.
there is food for thought. That is brilliant. Love it. Thank you for sharing. And can't wait to do it all again soon, Kath.
Thanks, Al. Me too. Cheers.